The views and opinions discussed on this show are of the guests and host. They do not reflect the views or opinions of associated sponsors or affiliates. Howling at the moon, a sudden urge to eat your cat, or an intense desire to mark your territory are common side effects of listening to and or being bitten by this show. Enjoy at your own risk.
It's the Oddtonewfoundland. Ghostly greetings from your host, Jonathan. Mysteries, ghosts, monsters and lore. East Coast esoterica and so much more. If it's odd to your friend, it's on the Oddtonewfoundland.
Ghostly greetings from the oldest city in North America. I'm your host, John Mallard, bringing you the best in East Coast esoterica. You, my friend, have stumbled upon the Oddtonewfoundland Paranormal Podcast. Welcome to episode 299 of your monthly paranormal variety show. And having you here is better than, well, how I spent my summer vacation is right around the corner. It is only a couple of weeks away for all those kids get out of school, whether you're 5 or 105, still in university somehow. It's always great to be off for a few months over the summer. And hopefully doing all kinds of weird paranormal stuff like hunting for Bigfoot or looking for Loch Ness or, my personal favorite, trying to lucid dream while drinking beer. Why? Because you're wonderful, a masterpiece, beautifully made, important to people because you're important to me, highly favored by your creator, or the law and averages of physics working in tandem. You, my friend, are an oddball, and on this show, your family, and we are one. 299 episodes of the Oddtonewfoundland Paranormal Podcast. Good Lord, if there isn't something on this show by now that you liked, I don't know what else to say to you. And I get to join the ranks of a very small number of podcasters who have over 300 episodes very, very soon. It's actually only 15%. Most podcasts only get around the 100 to 200 mark. So I'm really, really happy that my consistency, so to speak, has kept being, well, consistent. I hope everyone's doing okay. I know it's been a bit rainy here in Newfoundland over the last few weeks. My God, it has not stopped raining. We haven't seen the sunshine. It's like we just went from miserable snowy weather to rain, rain, rain. And it's making me kind of cranky, making me kind of ornery, so to speak. Maybe kind of upset. You know, I'm a bit upset. That's what we say here in Newfoundland. We're not upset. It's not upsetting. It's upsetting. I'm upset. I'd like very much for you guys to have a coffee with me. Check out the link down below. Buy Johnny a coffee. That's right. Make a $1 donation to the show. Really, really appreciate that. And also, to like and subscribe from wherever you guys are to right now would be absolutely awesome. Help the show keep growing. The longest reigning paranormal variety show of this sort. And I get to say that because, well, no one else calls their show that yet. Yet. I'm often imitated, never duplicated. Okay? It's true. There's other podcasters out there. There's other Newfoundland podcasters out there. There's other Newfoundland paranormal podcasters out there. But let's be honest, they haven't been doing it since 2014 and won't be celebrating 10 years on the air on July 1st. That's going to be an awesome episode. I hope to see you guys there. In the meantime, well, for 10 years, I've been bringing you guys the same stuff, right? Nah, it's always different on the show. It's a variety show. And man, a lot of weird stuff happened this last month. A lot. And I'm looking forward to digging into the paranormal news.
Somewhere between the funnies and the obituaries is... Oh, yes. The paranormal news.
My first story really makes me wonder. We have close relatives. Chimpanzees, apparently, are the closest, aren't they? That's what I thought, anyway. They got, like, gorillas and these other types of monkeys and apes and all this stuff. But, like, what about orangutans? Huh? Think they're related to us? How closely are they related to us? It'd be interesting. I wonder how much more closely a chimpanzee is related to us than an orangutan. Well, the reason why I bring up orangutans is because there's been something really, really weird that happened earlier in the month, and as soon as I saw this, I knew I had to put this on the news. It was so bizarre. It's also kind of creepy and weird, but in a kind of oh yeah, evolution's the real deal kind of thing. An orangutan in Indonesia has self-medicated using a paste from plants to heal a large wound on its cheek, say scientists. And this is a pretty sizable wound. It's bigger than its eye, almost the same size as its nose. First time a creature in the wild has been recorded treating an injury with medicinal plants. After researchers saw Rakus, the orangutan, applying the plant poultice to his face, the wound closed up and healed in a month. Scientists say the behavior could come from a common ancestor shared by humans and great apes and passed down from the generations. They are our closest relatives, and this again points towards the similarities we share with them. We are more similar than we are different, says biologist Dr. Isabel Lammer. A researcher team in the Ganang Lesser National Park, Indonesia, spotted Rakus with a large wound on his cheek back in June 2022. They believed he was injured fighting off a rival male. Because, orangutans kind of do that. They fight each other to death almost all the time. And, because he made loud cries for long calls, so to speak, in the days before they saw the wound, they kind of didn't realize that he was hurt until they actually seen him, self-medicating. The team that saw Rakus chewing the stem and leaves of a plant called Accusonus, an anti-inflammatory and antibacterial plant that's also used by locals to treat malaria and diabetes. He repeatedly applied the liquid onto his cheek for 7 minutes. Guys, this is an orangutan doing this. Rakus then smeared the chewed leaves onto his wound until it was fully covered. He continued to feed on the plant for over 30 minutes. The paste and the leaves then appeared to have been done their magic. The researchers saw no sign of infection, and the wound closed within 5 days. After a month, he was fully healed. Scientists concluded that Rakus knew he was applying this medicine because orangutans very rarely eat this particular plant, and because of the length of the treatment. Because he kept doing it for so long, he repeatedly applied that paste and later also applied more solid plant matter afterwards, almost patched it up. The entire process lasted a really long time. That's why we think that he intentionally applied it, explains Dr. Lammer. So what does that mean? It means it's the first time we've ever observed a distant relative of ours using medicine. Oh my God. That's incredible. That's a wild discovery and also really freaking weird to think about. An orangutan putting on a freaking patch. What's next? Give him some sutures. Surprised he didn't give himself his own stitches, together some banana leaves. Find some shark teeth. Well, maybe not shark teeth in the jungle. Maybe some, I don't know, tiger teeth or something. And use them as a needle and thread. My imagination's run away with me. Scientists were already aware that great apes use medicine to heal themselves, though. It's not the first time they heard of it. Back in the 60s, Jane Goodall saw whole leaves in the faces of chimpanzees, and others documented seeing great apes swallowing leaves with medicinal properties when they weren't feeling well, but they had never seen a wild animal applying a plant to a wound. It could be that he accidentally touched the wound with his finger that had the plant on it, and then because the plant has quite potent, pain-relieving substances in it, he decided, might as well do it again. Or he could have learned the method from watching other orangutans in his group, which is far more likely because he was A, repeatedly doing it, and B, a friggin' orangutan. He's not smart enough to know there's medicine in it. God. The next few years we'll discover even more behaviors and more abilities that are very human-like, said the doctor. The research is published in the scientific journal Scientific Reports, which I think is super cool because, science can be quite paranormal itself. Explain that one, guys. Huh? Okay. Let's bring it down a notch. I'm going to be honest with you now. This next story, it's got a lot to do with ethics. Okay? A lot to do with ethics. I ethically ghost hunted for many, many years. And what I mean by that is that I would never go into an area without permission. I would never go into an area and capture data and release it to the public without permission from the people involved. Well, a certain group of ghost hunters, they broke those rules. And it's not looking too good. In fact, It's been big news all over TV, and this is not looking good for this investigation team, folks. The family of a teenage girl who died in Victoria says it's traumatized by an episode of a TV show about the paranormal, and its complaints have now led to it being removed from APTN and the APTN alumni.ca. It seems reality shows are going over the boundaries sometimes and not considering the effects of these shows on people, parents, sisters, brothers, and grandparents, says Olivia Mahoney's father, Michael. The 17-year-old girl was found deceased from a drug overdose outside the building at 1250 Wharf Street in downtown Victoria 2 years ago. A memorial had been set up in the entrance to the property, and her case has been profiled by the media. Now, her family says it just learned that a January episode of The Other Side makes contact with a spirit that mentions Olivia's name inside the Wharf Street building. Members of the cast also placed flowers in a planter box that had been set outside in the memorial. I haven't slept in days after watching this episode, says Michael. I don't feel that it's their place in the first place to address the tragedy of my daughter. They never had permission. The Other Side is a half-hour documentary series produced by Angel Entertainment, airing on APTN. Follows paranormal investigators who communicate and try to take steps to help unsettled spirits move on. It was haunting, says Olivia's mother, Sarah Pollner. They were saying she was with evil spirits and ghosts, and she was scared. She didn't know what had happened to her. So when you put your thoughts on one side and what's actually going on there, we feel exploited. When you put your daughter to rest, you come to peace as much as you can about her, resting, and then you're hearing her story all over again the whole time, you feel like you lose her all over again, and you feel like you failed her and you couldn't save her. Pollner and Olivia's dad have asked for the show to be retracted and taken down. In a statement, APTN has agreed to do just that. Trust the independent producers that we work with to practice compassion and integrity in doing the work they do. We were distressed to learn that the families were not aware of the story being told by the team at The Other Side. And for everybody out there, as of this moment, no one who's ever been on the other side will ever be welcome on my podcast, ever. You are now blacklisted 100% in the realm of the paranormal to me. You are part of the problem. You are not part of the solution. Olivia's family says she was a happy girl. Her dad remembers a day when her child was once afraid of ghosts and the dark. Parents are hoping for an apology. Just feel like they exploited her death for entertainment, says Pollner. Her death for entertainment and money. That is like the most hollow feeling. As a paranormal investigator myself, who no longer does it, who would ethically, there was so much data, guys, so much stuff I collected that would blow your mind, but I would not release it because it was private to families. I would not release it. I would not tell the story to people. And like, I think of these idiots who went in there and did that in this show, and just how absolutely unprofessional that was. You do not do that. You crossed the line. And personally, I'm telling you right now, I will never respect that ghost hunting team, man. They are just, they're part of the problem, man. They truly are. You know what? Now I'm all hot and bothered. I'm all mad. I'm all angry. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sit back and watch a nice episode now of Pixar. Something on Pixar. Something Pixar. Maybe a Pixar movie or a show or something. I know. I'll watch Monsters, Inc. like this other little 3-year-old girl who was complaining about monsters in her walls. I'll give you a hint of what it really was. Candyman. Candyman. Little Sailor Class had recently watched DreamWorks' Monsters, Inc.'s animated movie when she started talking to her parents about monsters in the walls. So they didn't really take her seriously. In fact, they gave her a bottle of water and said it was monster spray so that she could spray away any monsters at night. But her complaints only got stronger over the following months. Sailor's parents started taking her more seriously when her mother Marissa noticed bees swarming near the attic and chimney. Oh, God. Her parents ended up calling in a pest control who identified the insects as honeybees, a protected species in the United States. He noticed the insects were traveling towards the floorboards of the attic right above the little girl's room. But when he used a thermal camera to scan the walls, part of the room lit up like a freaking Christmas tree because it wasn't just a small hive. Above this 3-year-old's bed, the nightmare fuel, 60,000 bees were found. Oh my God. Can you imagine the buzz? Oh my God, that freaks me out. I don't even want to. God. And also, it's a 3-year-old little girl. She could have been killed. Well, Honeybees are kind of harmless though, aren't they? Because honeybees cannot be harmed under U.S. law, a beekeeper was called in to have them removed in the hive as well. Only it wasn't just a few bees and a bit of honeycomb, but a massive colony stretching from a tiny coin-sized hole in the attic deep in the walls. The beekeeper told the class family that he had never seen a beehive go so far down into a wall. The beekeeper, whom Sarah began calling the monster hunter, removed the flying insects by making a hole in the wall and then vacuumed them all out. Many of them simply poured into the room from the wall, so the class family had to cover as much of the house in plastic film so the bees couldn't hide. By the end of the operation, between 55,000 and 65,000 bees were removed, along with 100 pounds of honeycomb. The bees are to be relocated to a bee sanctuary because they are, well, they're very much endangered. Told local journalists that the bees and their honey damaged the electric wiring of the house. She estimated total cost of repairing everything with more than $20,000. Insurance will likely not pay for any of these costs, as they don't cover anything. Such cases are rare, but definitely not unheard of. In 2019, believe it or not, all the way back then, I also covered another story about bees, and it's creepy because, well, it was in Spain, and it was actually a colony of 80,000. So there you go. At least it wasn't 80,000. It was only 65,000 in your house. Above your 3-year-old little girl. Oh my God, my heart. Ugh, that kills me as a parent. Makes me really worry. And if it isn't frickin' bees and bugs and cicadas and everything else that's going on here lately, it's bacteria. Bacteria on the ISS has mutated into something never seen on Earth. Do you know what the ISS is? The International Space Station, folks. In 2018, scientists discovered something unexpected lurking aboard the International Space Station. This unexpected visitor turned out to be 5 strains of multi-drug resistant bacteria known to cause Enterobacter diseases. Oh my God, I can't pronounce it. I'll try again. Enterobacter burgandensis. We'll just call it EB for short. Not to be confused with ED, that we all suffer from, but don't want to admit. Now, though researchers say it's at least 13 strains have been discovered, this means that the origin strains have mutated into several new strains of bacteria never before seen on Earth. Of course, it's impossible for any human to never come in contact with the bacteria. However, with so many types linked to various illnesses, verifying what kind of bacteria is around, especially in essential places like the ISS, is important. Because the ISS is such a heavily controlled environment, the discovery of these new strains of bacteria has raised some intriguing questions about future space travel efforts. So the first thing that's popping in my head is the symbiote for Venom in the Marvel Universe. But that's not really what it is. Microbes and bacteria that live on the ISS are extremely important to ensure that astronauts remain healthy during their services times aboard the station. And it's because of the microgravity and the increased radiation exposure that the station offers. Some bacteria can often mutate into new strains never before seen on Earth because, you know, that's not anything at all we haven't heard about in Marvel Comics again. Radiation, mutating bacteria. Like, is this a joke? No, it's a real thing. This is a freaking study released in the ISS. Oh my God. A new study released in March looks in depth at new strains discovered aboard the ISS. This bacteria is an opportunistic pathogen, which means it will only cause diseases in a person if they are already battling a disease or have a weakened immune system. Luckily, astronauts aboard the ISS are put through rigorous testing, so that isn't often the case, but as these astronauts spend more time in space, their immune systems weaken, which could give the bacteria a place to latch on. The researchers involved in the study believe that the unique environment that the bacteria found aboard the ISS could be what is driving it to mutate so rapidly into bacteria never before seen on Earth. The hope is that these findings will help discover more about microbial ecosystems dynamics within the ISS to help researchers come up with new ways to mitigate these threats going forward and to even fight future diseases. Because, you know, in space, no one can hear you die of a never-before-seen pathogen. God, these kind of stories really make me feel weird. And I think it's because of COVID-19. I think I got like some kind of PTSD or something. Okay. Let's talk about something different. Something with a little bit more hope. Something more positive. Do you believe you can live forever? Is it possible? Well, it isn't. 82.5 years is the average lifespan of a North American person. And because I'm a guy, I'm probably going to croak way earlier than that. So good for me. But here's the cool thing. Okay? You could technically still live forever in other ways, though. How about frozen embryos? Have you heard about this before? Somebody has used frozen embryos to conceive a dead lover's child. Of course, they end up suing for the inheritance afterwards, so let's just get right into this story. A Chinese woman who had an affair with a married businessman who died in a car accident used frozen embryos to conceive a child she claimed was his, and then sued his family for his inheritance. In a case that sparked a heated debate in China, the woman, surnamed Leng, sued her deceased lover's wife for part of his fortune as inheritance for her baby boy, who she claimed was her lover's heir. The unusual dispute began in 2021, soon after the tragic death of the man, Mr. Wen, in a car accident. Leng claimed to have frozen some of her eggs prior to the accident, which were later fertilized using Wen's sperm at a private fertility clinic. In December 2021, she gave birth to a healthy son named Zhao Wen. And in August of last year, she sued her former lover's family, asking for a part of their estate as an inheritance for her son. Oh my God. Like, huh? Seems like an episode of Black Mirror waiting to happen here. As part of the lawsuit, Leng asked the property, company equity shares, and insurance benefits of Wen's heir. Unfortunately for her, the woman could not prove that the boy had been fertilized by Wen, or that when he had given her consent to conceive the baby using the sperm. As a result, her claim was dismissed by the court. The case made news headlines in China following the court's verdict, with many declaring their shock at the woman's attempt to use her young child as a bargaining chip for her dead lover's fortune. How terrible. She'll do anything for money, one person wrote, hey, boo. Yeah, because, the guy who had the affair with her who's dead, he's not guilty at all of anything. Well, he's getting away scot-free because he's already dead. I hope the wife makes a counterclaim against the mistress, someone else wrote. One lawyer told the South China Morning Post that China's 2021 civil code stipulates that any living fetus in a mother's body is entitled to inheritance and gifts. It makes no mention of frozen embryos, though. Another said that IVF procedures at licensed clinics were legal, but that procedures should be agreed upon by both parents, which was unclear in this particular case. Well, it takes two to tango, but in a petri dish, all rules are off. Good God. Like, what kind of total recall shit is this? So let me get this straight, okay? This guy has an affair, cheats on his wife because he's a piece of garbage, okay? And, this other woman who, apparently has fertility issues decides to take his sperm somehow and like, okay, just this story doesn't add up. Obviously, he knew they were going to do IVF together, so he did consent to do it. But then there's like this part where it's like she waited forever to do it. Like it was like a year after he died that she got pregnant by him. Think about this for a second. What court in their right mind? I mean, I'm sorry, man. This product, this story, this was made in China. Which means it's low quality, and I'm not really buying it. Or maybe I'll buy it in bulk because it's so cheap. I don't know. I'll tell you one thing I do know, though. All these stories have been odd to Newfoundland. Take care, guys.
Attention all Podbean, iTunes, Stitcher, and TuneIn radio listeners. The Odd to Newfoundland Paranormal Podcast brings you the best in East Coast esoterica on the first of every month. Together, we can keep it growing by sharing the show on social media, subscribing to the show wherever you may be listening to it from, and by leaving feedback about your favorite episodes. John certainly needs a friend like you to help make his dreams come true, minus the alien abduction dreams. That is not cool at all. The Odd to Newfoundland Paranormal Podcast, always available, always free, always odd.